Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's Julianne here with another video for Trinity Stamps. Today I'm going to be using the Sunflower Bouquet stamp set as well as the Hello Sentiment dies. I'm going to be doing some watercoloring today, so I am going to be using my Caran Brush Marker Pros. And to add some sparkle, I'm going to be using some Nuvo Sparkle Spray. So let's jump right on in and get started. Since I am going to be doing some watercoloring today, I'm going to be stamping all of my images onto some Ranger watercolor paper using some Versamark ink. And before I started stamping, I do want to mention that I pre-treated my cardstock with some anti-static powder, which is going to ensure that my embossing powder doesn't stick anywhere I don't want it to. And I'm going to be stamping all of my images twice. Since these sunflowers do have a lot of detail in them, I want to make sure I get a really good impression. I am going to be embossing with some Gina K embossing powder, and if you happen to get some powder in places that you don't want to, don't worry, it happens to us all. When this happens to me, I just like to take a dry paintbrush and brush it away before heat embossing with my heat tool. When embossing, you definitely want to make sure your heat tool is good and hot before bringing it to your cardstock. So I just like to turn mine on and wait about 30 to 40 seconds before bringing it to my paper. When you are heat embossing, you want to make sure you are constantly moving your heat tool around. Don't just let it sit on one area because you can over emboss your images and you'll get like a bubbly effect. And now that I'm done with all of my embossing, I'm going to start working on my watercoloring today. For my watercoloring today, I'm going to be using my Caran Brush Marker Pros. And for my sunflowers, I'm going to start off by using the colors Canary and Amber. I am definitely not a watercolor pro by any means. I definitely prefer using Copic markers when it comes to coloring, but how I like to start off my watercoloring is by getting my cardstock wet with some clean water before adding any color. This step really helps me with the blending, since this is something that I struggle with the most. Once I have added some water, I'm going to start off by adding some of that canary color at the base of each petal, flicking it out towards the center, and then coming in with the amber, which is going to be the darker of my two shades, and adding that on top of the canary, and then finally coming in with my blender brush and blending the two colors together, as well as extending that color throughout each petal. I definitely recommend to work in little sections. When doing flowers, I like to work on just one petal at a time, but since these sunflowers and their petals are so small, I'm just going to be working in small sections today. This has definitely helped me in getting better results with watercoloring, but if you have better results another way, I encourage you to do what you are comfortable with. So I'm just going to continue to color in each petal for all of my sunflower images before moving on. For the center of each one of my sunflowers, I'm going to be using the colors Praline and Sandstone. And I'm going to be doing the same technique as before, going in with some clean water and then adding my two shades before going back in with my blender to blend the colors together. For the leaves, I'm going to be using the colors Olive Green and Olive Black. In the beginning of the video, I did show a different green shade, but decided that the olive colors went better with my sunflowers. Once my images have had a chance to dry, I'm going to go back in with a second layer of color. This is really going to help with my coloring and to add some really great dimension and depth to my images. You can definitely leave it at just one layer of coloring, but I prefer to do two when it comes to watercoloring. So I'm just going to put on some music and finish off my coloring, and I'll be right back. watercoloring complete, I'm going to start working on my background. For that, I'm going to cut down some more of that Ranger watercolor cardstock, and I've placed it in some leftover packaging I have in order to contain that sparkle spray from getting everywhere in my craft room. I'm going to start out by shaking up that spray, and to do this you want to shake the bottle side to side, not up and down. And then I'm going to spray my cardstock with that morning fog color till I feel that it's completely covered, and then I'm going to set it off to the side to dry overnight. Now with my background dry and my images all cut out, I'm going to start working on assembling my card. It was at this point that I really didn't like that white border around my images, so I picked a color that I thought matched my background, which ended up being that darkest shade of warm gray, and I decided to color in the edges of all of my sunflowers and other images. I really like the way that this came out. I don't have the coordinating dies for this stamp set, so my fussy cutting was already bad. So this not only will cover that up, but I think it really makes my sunflowers pop off that background as well. Off camera, I used the Hello Sentiment die to die cut some yellow cardstock a total of 3 times, as well as the shadow die from some white cardstock. And I'm going to adhere them all together using some liquid adhesive, and this is just going to add some really great dimension for my sentiment. I'm going to be adhering my background to my card base using some foam adhesive, again adding some great dimension to my card. And then I'm just going to start playing around with the placement of all of my sunflowers before adhering them down with either liquid and or foam adhesive. Once I have all of my images adhered to my background, I'm going to finish off my card by scattering some yellow embellishments throughout. And that's going to be my card for today. I want to thank you all for stopping by and spending some time with me. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to my channel for more card making videos. I will have all the supplies I used in today's video listed and linked down below in the description. And as always, have a wonderful day and happy crafting!